Good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Jason's Take On podcast series. We've got myself here, Jason Noble, in not so sunny and freezing cold London, and Jason Whitehead over in the USA. Say hello, Jason.
Hi, everyone. Coming to you live from Washington, D.C. Great to be here.
We have also got joining us today a very special guest who I've known for a good number of years now, a good friend of mine, Adam Joseph from Gainsight. Adam's the head of customer success at Gainsight. Adam's joining us for today's episode where we're going to talk about customer success technology and more broadly about delivering customer success at scale. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you so much. It's a real honor to be here. A long-time listener, long-time fan. I've had the pleasure of meeting both Jasons on different occasions, and friends as well as colleagues and peers in the customer success world. So thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
We are thrilled to have you here. Adam, I'm sure that 99.99% of our listeners know who you are, but for the one or two that don't, do you want to just give a quick intro to you, your background, and then we'll kick off with this episode?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been in customer success type roles, I think all the way back to 2003, which I think the company I started working from then just came off the CD-ROM, which really ages it. If you show one of my kids a CD today, they'll look at it and just think it's to put a coffee mug on. So I feel that I've been in this customer success space for a while. And I was fortunate and lucky to have stumbled upon, through a bit of luck and a bit of judgment, a career that I absolutely love and very passionate about. So I spent 12 years at a business building customer success from scratch, and then moved to a different business where I ran their services division for a couple of years, and then spent a couple of years actually in the consulting space. I kicked off a website, even when I was working for one of those businesses, called customersuccessmanager.com. and really used it as a forum to share my thoughts, my best practices, hints and tips, what I'd learned from my mistakes, which were numerous. But that's good, because in order to do well in this job, you have to make lots of mistakes and learn from them. And that had a great reception, a great following. And then I used to get a lot of requests from people saying, could I come in and help them deliver some of the programs that I was talking about in customersuccessmanager.com. So introducing customer success and managing it at scale. When's the right time for technology? So all very pertinent to today's discussion. I had that sit down discussion with my wife where we said, shall I give up the well-paid job and go and become a penniless consultant? And madly enough, she agreed, and off I did, and loved doing that for a couple of years. And during that time, actually worked very closely with all of the customer success technology providers, Gainsight included. I was a sponsor at Pulse one year, and then had a meeting with Gainsight where I got offered the position that I have today, and was thrilled to have it, and feel very fortunate to have met so many great people along the way, especially you two. So yeah, it's been a journey of about 17 years or so, but it's been brilliant, learned a lot, and wouldn't change anything for the world.
I think it's such a phenomenal journey, Adam, and I think there's a lot of similarities between the journeys that we've come on, but also a lot of really, I think, incredible kind of things that stand out for me. And I know I met you first, I think, when you were just moving into the world of consultancy, and it really did. I think your kind of passion for it has always come across. And I know when you and I presented at Pulse, it's just phenomenal to have worked alongside you. So I, for one, I'm just so excited to talk to you about these two topics we're going to talk through now. And clearly there's a very exciting time at Gainsight now. Jason, were you going to say anything? Sorry. No, excellent. Sorry.
I think that was me taking breath. Yeah. So
I'm not paying
I think you're referencing our big news that happened last week with the majority stakeholding from Vista, one of the leading private equity firms globally.
Absolutely.
And working inside of Gainsight. I think it's great, not only for Gainsight, but I think the wider customer success community. I think that the fact that we're valued at $1 billion plus just goes to show that something that might have been considered niche, i.e. customer success, and then even niche, a customer success dedicated solution, where it was and where it is now, says a lot about what we've all done, the three of us on this podcast and everyone listening who's got an interest in it. I think we've all had a part to play in that journey, which has been really exciting. And I think what it does, it opens up a whole new chapter for Gainsight. And I think we've done more than most to help push the whole customer success function and movement forward. And this just enables us to continue that and even supercharge that even further over the next few years. So super exciting time.
I think that's awesome news. Just really excited. And Jason and I were chatting the other day how we're so thrilled for you guys, but also to your point, I think it really legitimizes the industry in the minds of folks who may not be familiar with what this customer success thing is. And I think it's going to help really move it forward into the mainstream a lot more. So congratulations to you both, to you all.
Thank you. Yeah, it's, as I say, we're super thrilled about it. So yeah, exciting futures for us all.
I think that's the key thing, is what this means for the industry and even for Gainsight. Having been a Gainsight customer myself twice, I'm super excited about what it means about the future of what you guys are offering. So really excited about that. Hey, Adam, let us kick a question over to you on a similar theme here. Given you're with Gainsight now, one of the providers of some of the most latest and greatest technology out there when it comes to success, customer success, but how critical do you see technology and technology platforms being when it comes to running successful customer success programs and functions?
Yeah, it's a great question. Look, I think to begin with, if you're a startup, you probably begin your life about holding information about your customers on a spreadsheet or Google Sheet, or maybe some kind of database that you built yourself, which is fine to begin with. But what you find very quickly is it doesn't scale effectively. And once you start getting into column, A, B, or AZ, as we've all done on separate, and you've got multiple tabs at the bottom, it just becomes very unwieldy, very difficult to use. And you're getting further and further away from the original intent as why you created it, as to be a kind of central hub of customer data. If you want to be able to scale your team and have that visibility into customer health across the board, you should definitely be thinking about a customer success technology. Why? Because one of my biggest challenges always when running teams of customer success managers is that I want them spending the majority of their time actually executing and talking to customers. But what tends to happen if you don't have a hub where all of this customer data is coming into that you can make actionable decisions on, if you don't have a way of having visibility of customer health en masse, then you spend the majority of your time just researching. And we've all been there. We've got a web browser open. We've probably got 10 or 12 tabs. You've got product usage data, support data, billing data, CRM data, and so on and so forth. And just trying to figure out who is my customer, what are they up to? And then you've probably got Google Alerts or something else to get in all the M&A news or private equity news if you're following Gainsight. That's a lot to take in, and you can almost drown in data. You need to have what a customer success solution offers is trying to demystify everything, have everything about your customer in one place, and also have it tell you where you need to be focusing on. What do you need to be prioritizing in your day? What are the customers that are most at risk? Which ones have the most growth opportunity? If I'm leading the customer success function, am I able to accurately predict my pipeline, my forecast for our renewals? It's very difficult to do that without have some technology to do it. And that's even besides you start thinking things like automating your customer journeys. As a customer success manager, how often do you tend to write the same kind of communication a lot, just repetitive manual work? Technology and the role of automation really helps mean that you can focus your time on those items and tasks that really need human intervention, and let technology and automation drive a lot of those repetitive tasks that you tend to do time and time again. So obviously there are, I think, some challenges that I can talk about and some best practices when introducing a CS technology. But I think for me, when I think about why is a customer success solution critical, I think those are the main themes I think I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's so important. You've pointed out that you've been in this industry for so long. You've seen so much happen here. Can you tell us, how has the customer success technology evolved and matured over the last few years, and how has it improved? And after that, what's your vision for what's next?
Oh man, so I'd struggle after the year we've just had. I challenge anyone to have an accurate ball to try and see what might be happening in the future, but I'll give it a go. I think in terms of how the customer success technology market has evolved, I think in multiple ways. Just look at the number of solutions there are out there now. Gainsight used to be the only player in town, where maybe some people would think that as a good thing. Actually, I think competition is really healthy. I think the fact that it's become a more crowded marketplace, I think drives Gainsight to be more innovative. I don't think having a monopoly of any market is a particularly healthy one. So we're seeing more and more technology providers in the space. It's always reassuring to see Gainsight in the very top right quadrant, typically, of all of the comparisons that you see. But I think part of what makes us there is the competition, keeps us on our toes, which is a good thing. I think the other ways that I've seen the customer success technology evolve is something I talked to a gentleman by the name of Dave Jackson, which is a name I'm sure you're both familiar with. And if you've spoken to Dave, who's similar to what I used to be, a consultant in the world of customer success, one of his big hot topics is all about product-led growth. And I think that's another key area. I think gone are the days where you need to have a customer success team just to bridge the gap of an unusable product. The product needs to stand up on its own 2 feet or solution so that your customers, your users can use them for the purposes in which they bought them and be able to do that without having to sign up for days or weeks of training. I think it's all really important. I think the other thing as well is the sheer variety of data that you can bring into a customer success technology now, and how easy that is compared to what it used to be. I think going back to the usability of the product, I think one big thing about that we focused on a lot here at Gainsight over the last year or so, and Jason as a customer, hopefully you can verify this for me, is all about simplicity as well. Because like any system, you can have a very powerful solution, but it doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be an overly complex one. So the simplification of Gainsight, both as an end user and an administrator, is key, and making sure that we've got something called the Horizon experience, which really is about trying to demystify Gainsight for users and administrators alike, and just make sure you can use it for its intended purpose much more quickly. For example, doing things like inline editing, and a much heavier focused on UI than just bringing in new bells and whistles on functionality. And I think the other key area is just how trying to automate customer journeys. And I referenced this earlier. If you think about the customer journey, I've gone through an exercise of plotting out those touch points of how you want to interact with your customer. Well, as you think about those 5 key stages, from onboarding to nurture to renewal and an upsell and cross-sell, and actually I left out pre-sales that happened before at the predecessing step, you could probably plot out a number of key ways and key times and milestones that you want to contact your customer at. Well, the ability to bring that into a technology and to automate some of those, and how that has progressed and matured over the last few years has been incredible. So I think those are the ways that I've seen the customer success technology market evolve and mature, which I think has been really important. And as I say, I think some of those things will continue in the future. I do think product-led growth is something that we'll see more and more of. I think the adoption of customer success technologies from people outside customer success roles. So if I think about account managers, support, if I think about marketeers, there are ways that you can use customer success technology that would cross all of those different roles. So I think customer success technology becoming much more mainstream. I think now more than ever, technology is enabling us to be a solution that's very simple and easy to use, but very effective when communicating with end users. So I think those trends will continue in the future.
I think you've hit on some really key things. I can actually absolutely concur with some of the things you're saying. And I know for a fact that some of the changes that I've seen in the Gainsight tool are about that simplicity, and that's very much been apparent over the last couple of months, which is great to see. So I think that complexity and ease of use is something that's critical. But what are the other big challenges that you see around customer success technology and getting people engaged with it? What are some of the big challenges that you're aware of?
So I think for me, there are 5 key challenges. I think if you want to get your customer success technology implementation done, I think are really serious considerations that bear some thinking about. The first one is all about your data. So very often I actually call the Gainsight solution a bit like a Formula One car. I think you know me well enough to know I love a good analogy. A Formula One car has got the best possible chassis. It's streamlined. It's got all of the functionality there. But what really drives that car is the engine. And the engine really is our customers' data. So as you start to think about all of the aspects of a 360-degree view of your customer, what does that mean? It probably starts with who they are, what they've bought, how, when do they renew? But think about other key items such as support tickets, adoption data, survey information, marketing, billing, and so on and so forth. So we need the breadth and depth of and access to all of the different types of systems that you have that hold customer data. So just having that data available is key. And then obviously the second point is then integration. So as you consider which customer success technology that you want to work with, having those integration capabilities is key. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult, and you've still got this position where you're having all your tabs open in your browser and just kind of going between the different ones. The third one is corporate support. So in order to implement your customer success technology effectively, it's not just about us in customer success. We're going to need our colleagues in engineering and in other parts of the group help us on occasions to make sure we can get the data over in the flavor and the type that we need it in. And also making sure that the C-suite is aware, because you're going to want to share these dashboards and reports across the enterprise. Ensuring that it's a joined up approach across your business, I think, is really important. The fourth is playbooks. So at Gainsight, we talk to our customers a lot about playbooks, having a systematic way of making sure you've got a way of engaging with your customer so that every CSM isn't just making it up as they go along. So every time product usage drop, how do you react to that? There probably are some best practices that you're going to want to apply. So having those playbooks, I think, are important. Now, at Gainsight, we have a whole library of different playbooks that you can use, download, and adapt. However, I think coming into this, having an understanding of what your best practices are, both along your customer journey, and then how to react to areas where customers may fall off a cliff or show some displeasure, I think is really important. And I think lastly, I think many organizations think about introducing a customer success technology, but what about the life thereafter? And one of the keys to success I've identified is you need to have a role at your business, maybe an operations role, which I've seen a real explosion of within the CS world this year. But I think having that, a customer success operations, a sales operations person, someone who's got more slightly of a technical knowledge, who can take responsibility for the administration of your CS technology, is vital, because that means although the customer success technology, when you introduce it, is fit for purpose, what about 6 months from now? What about a year from now? You need someone there who's going to own that, who can really help supercharge the effectiveness of that CS technology. So for me, I think it's those 5 key points that will be the main challenges to address when thinking about introducing a CS technology.
Yeah, I think those are great ones. I love what you're saying about the data and understanding the health and all that. And it reminds me, I think when I first met you, you were presenting at a conference about watermelon customers. I reference that all the time, so I think it's such a great concept. Can you share with folks a little bit about what that is, and maybe tell how technology and pulling all the different data can help with that?
Yeah, for a while I got known as Mr. Watermelon, which is not a title I'd ever thought I'd be bestowed upon myself. I also need to call out my good friend and buddy, Matt Nastowski, who we first presented about watermelons together. Yeah, it's a great concept. So let's just go back a bit. What do we mean by a watermelon customer? What a watermelon customer is, on the surface, that they're green, right? And by green, I'm healthy. So for example, their product usage may be really high. So you think, hey, great, we've got a customer who loves us. And then they churn. So really, if you scratch beneath the surface, they're red, i.e. the watermelon, green on the outside, but red on the inside. And one of the great ways about trying to eliminate, and every company has watermelon customers, every single one. So the way that you try and eliminate them is try and really think about what a healthy customer is. Obviously, product usage important, but just because product usage is high doesn't mean they're getting high value. What about all of the 360-degree view of customer health? The number of support tickets they have and how long they've been open, the survey response that they've been given, how long was their implementation? And trying to look at a balance of different metrics, but also it's not just about metrics, it's still a bit about gut feel. And so it's finding that balance between the subjective and the objective, which we in Gainsight put into something called a scorecard. And that helps to give a much more balanced view in terms of really how healthy a customer is, where the opportunities are, where the risks are, as opposed to just taking a purely subjective view. Or I'm sure many of us, I know I'm guilty of this in the past, have probably put too much faith in just having high usage. Now I know that high usage doesn't necessarily mean high value. What it's all about is, for example, at Gainsight, we put a lot of focus on, does a customer have a success plan? Because customer success by its very nature is subjective, right? What I call success and what you call success could be two dramatically different things. A great way of avoiding a watermelon customer is, have we actually confirmed or even asked a question about how the customer is holding us accountable for their success? And then once we've done that, do we have a plan to put it to enable our customers to reach their objectives, i.e. a success plan? And we know, and I can share a bit of inside intel here, that the customers where we have a success plan, where we have verified outcomes, which is where the customers fed back the ROI to us, we've probably got a 20 to 25% point increase in our likelihood to renew and to regrow. Now, that's not just unique to Gainsight. I'd say that should be with every business. The more that you do that, the more systematic approach that you have, the less likely you are to have watermelons in your customer base.
Wow, that's awesome. And I like that. And I like what you said, how every company in the world has this, because I think that's very much the case.
And the fact that I'm still talking about watermelons, this is going to keep that title for a bit longer. Mr. Watermelon I am, and I'm proud to be even at the end of 2020.
You're welcome.
Adam, something you said there that I think absolutely is a key point is about the success plans and the outcomes. How do you use technology, or can you use technology to go and help better identify what those outcomes are that your customers are looking for, or do you still have to rely on that relationship to get those?
I think that you can't take the relationship out of it, certainly. I do think a lot of organizations and a lot of customers of those organizations really struggle to nail down the ROI of why they've bought and how they prove value, actually. So I think what's important to us is, once you've been doing this job for a while and you've seen customers reach immense success, and advocacy, I think, is a great way of understanding the types of success that customers have. After you do it for a while, you can get an understanding of the types of ROI or objectives that your customers can achieve with your solution. So if a customer is really struggling sometimes to really identify metrics, either qualitative or quantitative, to identify about what success means to them, then you can use the advocacy program that you've built into your customer success solution to help guide them. I always think there's a fine line between influencing a customer but guiding them and coming up. And so I'm often asked about, what is the ROI of a customer success solution? What is the ROI of Gainsight? And so there are many ways you can do it. Some of the ways might be linking into some key corporate metrics that you might care about. I learned from the great Dan Steinman a long time ago, actually on a podcast I hosted with him back in the day, that one of the key metrics for any recurring revenue business is net retention. In other words, if you never sold to another customer again, have you got a thriving business or not? So you should always be aiming for a net retention over 100%, i.e. you look at your book of business minus churn plus upsell gives you your net retention. But gross retention, i.e. just take out the up or cross-sell element of it, logo retention, NPS, these are all really good metrics for a customer success solution. You could argue have a direct or indirect impact on them, but clearly there is an impact there. And in the CS world, as we think about what we do as customer success managers, I think there are key efficiency metrics that we always look to improve from having a CS technology there. Is by having a CS technology, a CSM manage more accounts than they could do previously. How much time are they saving from the efficiency gains of having the customer journey, having an elements of it anyway, having it autonomously managed? What is the length of the implementation? Do you have stakeholder alignment? This is huge for us. Do we have ways that you're multi-threaded at your customer accounts rather than being solely dependent on one contact who might not be that senior? And obviously the depth and breadth of adoption. Is your product being used in more meaningful ways by using a customer success technology like Gainsight than it was before? So when we're trying to show our customers or guide our customers about the ROI they can expect, having this arsenal of customer data in our platform enables us to, depending on who that customer is, helps guide them to the right kind of outcomes that they can expect. So we use our technology a lot to help build those success plans, share them with customers as well, because we can't do it alone. It's a partnership, not just we are the vendor and they the customer. To achieve the most levels of success, it needs to be a real partnership. And so creating a success plan, basing it on achievable outcomes for all parties to have stake in the game, I think is really important, and trying to make sure that you can demonstrably show the outcomes, I think, are vital.
That's awesome. That gets me thinking a little bit too. When you're rolling out Gainsight or other tools to CS teams, what do you think CS leaders or other executives in the organization should realistically expect from customer success platforms? And where do you need to bring people in so they don't have false expectations about things that maybe the technology just really is not the right way to address something?
I think there are many different kind of benefits that both CS leaders and commercial leaders can expect. I think the first thing purely is better visibility into customer health. Yeah. We talk about customers a lot, but it's very difficult actually to know whether a customer is healthy or not. Particularly if you ask 5 different people in your organization, you might get 5 different answers. So actually having a vision of what customer health looks like and being able to use technology to really show that health or otherwise, and be able to have playbooks in place where customers are at risk or be able to utilize any upsell opportunities is huge. So I think just having that overall better visibility into customer health would be a key thing that leaders could expect. I think the second is to also increase retention rates. Let's not beat about the bush. If you've got better visibility into customer health, then you should be able to do something with it. And so identify risks quicker, close up and cross-sell opportunities faster, ensure that where you think you've got a healthy customer, that the outcome of that is retention is really important. And then you've got things like For me, and I'm sure other CS leaders as well, it's about improving the accuracy of our forecasts. We don't want to stand up in front of the C-level suite and say that X customers are going to renew, only to have egg on our face when they don't. And so I think those are really some key benefits of customer success technology. It's about customer health. It's about doing something with it. And it's all about supercharging the efficiency of your customer success team. Very often, customer organizations spend a lot on investing in customer success. And so ensuring that we've got solutions designed for the customer success community that's going to really supercharge their performance and efficiency and output, I think is vital. And without a customer success technology, you're making it infinitely more difficult in order to achieve that.
You know, something just thinking about it there, and I think for just knowing you and your journey you've gone through, actually working for an organization now that's providing that technology service is almost kind of full circle. And you've come to, this is what we've been trying to do. You know, how do we improve how we deliver customer success? And I think a lot of the key points that you've talked through is the value that technology can bring to how you deliver customer success better. Look, Adam, a huge thank you for joining us. One question we always like to give our kind of guests, for our listeners, and Jason and I do it on our normal podcast as well, is the idea of a bold challenge question. So the one that we're going to throw back to you, would love to hear your thoughts on, is how can our listeners ensure that they've got the right customer success technology solutions for what they need?
I think it's kind of multifaceted approach. As I said, a customer, if you're a startup and you're just essentially starting on your journey, then you could probably get by on using a spreadsheet or even the back of a fag packet, whatever you want. You could probably get by on the very basics to begin with. But if you're serious about wanting, if you're more as you're growing up as a business, as you move from startup to scale up to SME to enterprise business, I think if you really want to scale effectively, if you want to be able to efficiently operationalize items in your customer journey, then you need to think about bringing in a customer success technology. And then it becomes about, okay, how important are certain specific elements? There's a thriving number of customer success technology providers. I'm very proud to work for the market leader. So it's then working, what are the key functionality? What is the data that you have, those connections? Because without having that data in it, it just becomes a Formula One car that only goes at 20 miles an hour. So it's making sure you've got the data, you've got those connectors, and you've got ways of being able to operationalize items in your customer journey that can super drive or super boost the types of reactions you want from your customers, i.e. advocacy and renewal and growth. Those are always the three key things that you're looking from your customer base. I think that would pretty much sum it up for me, Jace.
Awesome. Hey, Adam, look, really fantastic to have you join us. I remember you did a podcast with me as a guest once, so I'm so glad that we've come full circle and I can do the same for you. But it's been an absolute pleasure from us. Like I say,
thank you so much.
Thank you both as well. As I say, I'm a long-time listener of your other podcasts. So being a part of this is great, and thank you for everything you both do as well. It's been fabulous.
All right, thank you very much, Adam. All the best, mate. We'll speak to you soon.
Cheers now.